Hello Potters, Michelle Mead here with the Nostalgic Ceramics Studio. I want to pop in and say hello. We're going to be doing a workshop today on how to build a Valentine / envelope heart wall pocket. So I'm going to step you through that. We're going to build us a cool little wall pocket. I will be having this workshop in studio on January 12th. From 5 to 7 p.m. So if you're interested, if you're in Sterling and you're interested in joining in on this workshop, sign up at www.nostalgicceramics.com and we hope to see you here. If you're not in studio, you can watch this video and just follow along in your home studio, and let's get started. All right, so these are the tools we're going to be using today. I'll go through those with you real quick and then we'll get that out of camera frame. So to start, we're going to be texturing the wall pocket today with this heart roller. I picked this up. It's called Angie's Crafts on Amazon, and it's just this really cute heart roller. We're gonna need some slip and a score tool for slipping and scoring together our pieces together. We have some cornstarch and a brush here. You may or may not need this depending on how wet or damp your clay is. This here is a ribbed, I think this was 3-inch heart cutter. And then this is a 2.5-inch that is not ribbed heart cutter. We have a yellow rib. This one is Mud Tools. It's the Mud Tools yellow rib. I really like this one because it's kind of firm. I like it for compressing the clay. We got a brush for cleanup. This one is my favorite brush. It's a Sumi brush. I don't know what size it is because I don't speak Japanese. So this size Sumi brush. A needle tool. This is a fettling knife, and this is Dolan Tools fettling knife. This is just a little rubber cleanup tool. I really like these ones. I got them off of Amazon. It's got a really narrow side and then a fatter side, and then these rubber pieces come off and you can use the tool without them. So it's a multifunctional tool and I really like these. I have a wire cutter. This one is Mud Tools. A sponge, a bucket of water. Our mold today that we're going to be cutting our slab from, or our template we're going to be cutting our slab from, is our actual wear board. Our wear boards in the studio here are 12 by 12, so we will be using a 12 by 12 piece of clay. I've got 2 of those. So let's jump right into this. We will get started on building our wall pocket. Okay, we're gonna start by compressing our slab with that yellow rib. We do this to get rid of any air bubbles, and also clay has a memory. So clay memory, basically just the clay particles lay together a certain way. And if we were to pick this up and do that, and then put it back down and not compress it again, the clay memory would be for this. And so when it fires, it will begin to lift up and warp your clay. So compressing prevents your clay body from warping as much in the firing. It also gets rid of any air bubbles. I don't know if you can see those air surface bubbles are kind of popping on the top here. If you use a block of clay fresh from the bag, you won't have any air bubbles in it. But you saw that this clay had some chunks of clay that I had used previously kind of pounded onto it. So the air bubbles are no big deal. If you do see some that don't come out with compressing, you can just use your needle tool to pop them. And then compress again. We're gonna do that to both sides of the slab. Our slab is pretty sticky today. Typically, you would want your slab to be, oh, see, it also gets rid of texture if you have texture in your slab. If your slab is a little bit sticky, you can just leave it to sit out for a little while, let it dry out a little bit before you start building with it. And I actually recommend that. We're just gonna go for it because this is what we're doing right now. So, but I do recommend that you kind of leave your slab out to kind of stiffen up a little before you start building. You don't want it to be so stiff that it cracks when you move it and bend it. But, you know, you want it to be stiff enough that it will hold its shape a little bit, so. All right, we're all smoothed out. So the next thing is to, first of all, since my clay is so wet, I am gonna go ahead and put down some cornstarch because I don't want this to stick to the table. So I've got cornstarch here and I'm just gonna sprinkle that. This actually works as kind of like flour would for dough, prevents it from sticking. The cornstarch does not harm the clay at all whatsoever, so you can wedge this up even though it has cornstarch in it. It doesn't do anything to your clay. So it's a good non-stick agent. So we went ahead and did that. We're gonna go ahead and roll our texture in. Oh yes, we are very sticky today. So I'm gonna go ahead and just dust the top too, because we are extra saturated today, so. Sorry, I know that kind of eschews the visual of the texture that's being rolled in. But it's these cute little hearts. I'll cut a piece off so you can kind of see. Can you see that? It's these cute little hearts. Okay. So the next thing is we're gonna make sure that this is not stuck to the table, first of all. And then we are going to cut out our 12 by 12 square. You can save these pieces for later, use them for something else, test tiles maybe. You can use them to, if you have a big enough piece, like we're gonna use this piece down here to cut out our hearts, or one of our hearts anyway. So we'll just set that off to the side. That's Kevin walking in and out. Say hi, Kevin. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put this on the bat, but I'm gonna put it on upside down. On the wear board, this isn't a bat. Okay, so we put that on the wear board upside down, because now what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll texture into just one corner, because when we think about it, when we're making our envelope, we're going to be folding these ends up. We're going to be folding this end up. We're not going to be using the back side of this. It's just going to stay. So we're going to just go ahead and roll some texture right in to this area so that it can be seen. And let me make sure. And actually, I'm going to do it this way because my hearts, even though it seems like they're in every direction, the pattern does kind of have an up and a down. So I'm just trying to determine what direction I want the hearts to go. I could do that, or yeah, I think I'm going to do it this way. And then figure out which direction I want this to go so that the hearts are up. And that is just like this. So I'm going to go about halfway and just roll the texture in. All right, and so now you can see that we're definitely off. We flattened that out a little bit, so I'm just gonna run right along my wear board and cut off that excess. And we're back to a square piece. All right, so there's actually a couple of tools that I missed that we're gonna need for this project. I have another little ribbed cookie cutter that is about this size that is going to be where we punch the hole to hang it. And you can use any sponges to kind of hold this up while the clay is still wet. I have this big sponge that is like the exact right shape that I'm gonna use. It was a bigger sponge. I just cut it in half. I actually think I cut it into thirds. It was a pretty big sponge. So I just cut this portion off, and that's what I'm going to be using to hold that up until it gets a little bit more dry and able to hold itself up. So you have a decision to make at this point. You can fold these in first and then have this portion over the top so that the seam is like that. Or you can have it so that the seam is over the top like this. So you're gonna have to decide how you want that seam to look on your finished piece. I'm gonna do it this way, but I did it the other way on the other one, and I'll show you. So for this one, I had the bottom piece over the top, and on this one, I'm gonna put these pieces over the top of the bottom. I don't think it really matters how you do it. It's just, I did one way, and now I'm gonna do this one the other way. It's just a personal preference, I guess. An aesthetic preference. And I'm just kind of folding it over this sponge. Yeah, I think that I like that. So I'm happy with that. So I'm ready to go ahead and slip and score. And I'm gonna start at the corners here. Oh, okay, so here's the thing. This is a brand new clay body. That's kind of why I'm testing it here. I've never used this clay body before. This is the first go around. So I do have a bunch of test tiles made, but I don't have any slip for it yet. So I guess I should probably just use water because that color is gonna show up. So I'm gonna just use water today for slipping and scoring. But typically you would want to use a slip. I mean, you can use water, it works. You're gonna have to make sure you press it together very firmly but I prefer to use Slip and actually magic water. So I'll talk about what magic water is later on in a different video. So we're gonna lift this up, and I'm just gonna kind of mark, since I don't have any slip on there, where we're going to be scoring. And on this one, it should leave a mark about where we're gonna be scoring, so you already know where to score. So I'm kind of clean this up a little bit. Gives me less cleanup to do on the inside later. And we're going to be putting our water on. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the brush for that. Just gonna get some slip made with the water here. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and press those together. Just gonna kind of do a gentle press, and then I will come in from the inside and kind of just gently press that down from the inside as well. And then I'm gonna slip and score right here and right here. And I'm kind of scoring to where it becomes one piece, like I'm scoring that down, because I just really want to get a really great, adhesion. So and you can really push right here. It doesn't matter if you lose the texture, because we're going to be putting a heart over the top of it anyway. So I'm just really pressing this down quite firmly. It's also one of the areas on this project that is most prone to cracking. So since we're not going to be losing any of the aesthetic appeal by removing this texture, you can really kind of get in there and compress with your fingers, really make this one piece right here to kind of help prevent cracking. Okay. So I'm just gonna kind of clean up these edges a little real quick. You can completely close these off if you want to. I kind of think that they're cute the way that they are, so I'm gonna leave it. But this is your project, so if you don't like that, you can certainly go ahead and close it up. I'm just taking my fingers and just rubbing it on those edges to kind of clean those sharp edges off. Something to remember when you're hand building is if it's a sharp edge, when it's damp, it's gonna be even sharper after it's glazed. Remember, we're kind of turning this into a glass type material in the firing. And so anything that's sharp, anything that has a sharp edge, that does not get smoothed out will end up being very sharp in your finished project, and you don't want that. So just make sure that you're always smoothing these edges out as much as possible. You can do that with a brush. You can go in with this tool and kind of smooth edges and seal where those two pieces of clay meet up. Clean it up a little and take your sponge and kind of wipe it down a little and just kind of clean those sharp edges off of there. want everything to look real soft anyway, especially on a project like this. It's just so cute, and he just wanted it to be a very soft form. Yeah. So I'm not going to lift that up now to clean the edges. I'm gonna wait until it's very leather hard before I clean these other edges up, because this is the part that is gonna be most likely to warp. And I will show you on this other piece. You see how that is not exactly flush, how it's kind of lifting up there. Let's see if you can see here. I gotta turn it down more this way. Okay. So if you can see, it's lifting up there. It's not exactly flush. And you know, this is good. I mean, this isn't bad, but if it warps anymore, when you go to hang it on your wall, you're gonna put a screw in here, you're gonna put a screw in here, and if you screw those too tight, you're gonna crack your piece when you hang it on the wall. So you wanna minimize the warping as much as possible, and if it does warp a little bit, you just wanna be aware of that. One way that you can minimize the warping is to leave this completely flat on your wear board. Don't move it, don't touch it, don't mess with it. The clay is memorized to there because remember we rolled this out. Wait for this to get very leather hard and unable to move before you touch it again. And then dry your piece very slowly. I will put this in, I use a freezer as a damp box, so I will put this in the freezer and just let it acclimate to that climate without drying out for a week before I will allow it to then completely dry out. But if you don't have a damp box or a freezer, you can just cover this pretty tightly in plastic and let it sit in plastic for a week and then let it dry out slowly from there. And then, you know, loosely cover it for a couple days and then take the cover off. And that will prevent that warping as much as possible. So the next things that we have to do here are we're gonna cut out our hole to hang it, and I just kind of eyeball that and cut that out of there. And then let's see, I do have a smaller one to cut the hole down here. I don't have it on me right now, but I will do that later, or I'll do that with like a hole punch, which I'll show you that tool. So this is a holer. And so, like I said, when it's at that very strong leather hard stage, I will go in and just punch a hole out. I want it to be so firm that when I lift it up, it doesn't move before I do that though. And I don't want it to be too dry that I crack it. So it's a good leather hard stage that you do that at. And then we're gonna go ahead and punch out our hearts now that go on here. And I have some letters that I'm going to put on mine. I'm gonna put mail on mine. You can put whatever you want. Like this, it could say love, it could say your name, it could have initials like K plus M equals heart, right? Like you can do whatever you want. I'm gonna be using mine in the studio. So I am going to put mail on it, and we'll do that next. Okay, so here's another tool that I didn't show in the beginning. These are little fondant stamps. I got them on Amazon. They're for fondant, and you just, they were very affordable. And you just snap them together like that, and it makes a great impression. With these, you have to make sure that you're stamping it the correct way, so that, you know, it's right. So just pay attention to which direction you're stamping. So mine says mail. Oop. And we're gonna move this out of the way. And we're gonna grab the piece that was left over. And I'm gonna kind of eyeball how I want this, and I think I want it right there, so I'm gonna cut that one out. And then the other one, I don't want it to have any texture on it, so I'm just gonna flip that over, smooth this with a rib. I'm going to stamp my stamp into it. And lift that up, make sure it's not stuck. And I'm going to line my heart up and stamp that out. Okay. So now we have a cute little heart. And honestly, I don't like the shape. See how it's coming all the way down there? So I'm gonna pull that off, and I'm just gonna cut a little bit off at the end there. If you like that, you can keep it. I'm gonna do this. Just take a little bit off of the end there. Okay, and now that matches up much better. I like that a lot more. So if you liked it the other way, that's fine. You can leave it. You don't have to do what I do. And then I am going to slip the back side of this. And I'm slipping until I get rid of all that texture. Sorry, not slipping. I'm scoring this until like basically all that texture is gone. Because again, I don't want this to fall off. And so I don't want all of those gaps from the texture underneath and in between. Or I want to minimize it as much as possible. Let's put it that way. So then I'm going to just brush this and make some slip right there on it with some water. And then we're gonna stick this right where we want it. Lift up, and we'll have an idea of where we need to score this side. And same thing, I'm gonna try and get as much of that texture off as I can while I'm scoring. And then just a little bit more water. We don't need a lot because I really put a lot on that other one. Okay, and then we are going to push that together. Just make sure I go around all of my edges. And again, as I'm going around pushing this down, I'm also taking off that sharp edge. As I'm pushing down, I'm removing that sharp edge because again, we don't want those edges on there to be causing any problems later on after firing. Plus it looks cleaner. I mean, not only for practical purposes do you not want your pottery sharp, but it just looks more refined when you clean it up real well. So I'm just sealing that edge with this little rubber tool that I have. And then I'm gonna go back in and clean it up a little more, even with the brush. And I'm just gonna, this is a very dry sponge. I'm just gonna sponge it off a little. Get any fingerprints off of it. And then I'm gonna smooth this edge out just a little bit. I don't wanna take the texture away because remember we have this pretty ribbing around our heart cookie cutter. I don't wanna remove that, but I do just kind of wanna take that edge off just a little bit. Okay, and so now we have this. We're gonna bring this back in. And that's just gonna sit right there. Line it up. Okay. I'm gonna take the edge off of this side. This is not sitting flush. This piece will only be attached here and here. It's not sitting flush because I kind of want it to pop out like that. I think that's a really cute aesthetic. So what I'm doing is just kind of, again, taking off that sharp edge. I'm not getting rid of the texture. I'm just knocking down that edge ever so slightly. Okay. We're gonna slip. We're gonna score. I don't know why they call it score. Slip and score. It should be score and then slip because you score it first. Score and then slip. Can you see that? Set it right there. I think I like that. So it's showing that it was touching right here. And I'm just gonna press that on. I'm not pressing so firm that I'm smashing anything, but I'm pressing almost to that point, as firm as I possibly can without smashing. Okay, now I want to look at it from this angle. And okay, so looking at it from this angle, I can see I kind of want to lift that up a little, you know, come back and look at it from every angle, make sure it looks the way you want it to from all angles. Okay. And then that's it. This one's done. It's finished. I'm going to, as soon as it's leather hard, I'm gonna come back in and I'm gonna clean up this bottom edge and I'm gonna cut a hole in it. But until then, all I'm doing is putting this in the freezer, or if you don't have a freezer. By the way, my freezer is broken. It's unplugged. It's not a working freezer. I suppose I should mention that. I use a freezer as a damper box, but it is not a working freezer. It's just a box that is airtight. So I'm gonna put this into my damp box, which is a freezer. And but if you don't have that, you can just you can put this whole thing in a bag of plastic. Here, I can show you. So oftentimes plastic, your clay bodies come in plastic, right? Like your 25-pound bag of clay will come in this bag. I just save those because they're perfect for slow drying your clay if you don't have a damp box. And all you have to do is put this in here, the whole thing, just cover it in there. I'm not actually gonna do it, but you just put this whole thing in there and then you're gonna cover it real tightly. And you'll leave it like that for about a week. After a week, 5 days. 5 days is enough. And then after about 5 days, you're not gonna touch it. Like, you have to leave it alone. Like, once it's in the bag, it's done. Your piece is done. A lot of times potters go back and they fiddle with it, and then that's when, you know, that's when all the stuff happens. Anyway, you're done. You're gonna put it in plastic, you're gonna leave it alone for 5 days. And then after that 5-day period, you're gonna come and uncover it. You're gonna smooth out this corner, punch a hole in it right here so that when you hang it, it doesn't wobble all over. Like when you open and close the door, or, you know, if somebody bumps it, it's like not gonna move. So I put a hole where I can get my drill in. I don't wanna put it all the way in here so I can't get my drill in, but I put it like right here where it's not gonna be very visible. And then it doesn't move. So you're gonna put your hole in, and then after that, after your 5 days and you've cleaned up the second time on the leather hard, you're gonna come back and you're just gonna lightly cover it like that. And then you're gonna leave it lightly covered like that for 2 days. And then you're gonna remove this and let it dry the rest of the way. And that's gonna prevent it from cracking at the seams. It's gonna prevent it from cracking all around the heart here. And it will prevent it from warping here at the top. So I don't have a completed one to show you today, but I will post pictures of the completed pieces on Instagram and on Facebook. It's Nostalgic Ceramics, LLC, on Instagram and Facebook. It's www.nostalgicceramics.com online, and then it's Nostalgic Ceramics on YouTube. So anything, you know, you'll get to see those finished pieces. I'll post those for you. This is the one that I did in our white stoneware clay body. It is bone dry. It has not been fired yet. And I will share on those posts how I glazed it so that you can replicate that as well if you like. All right, thank you for watching. I hope that people who are local come to the workshop and build one of these with me on January 12th from 5 to 7 p.m. That's a Friday night. And we will build one on this white stoneware, and you'll have it ready for you in time for Valentine's Day. So I hope you join us again in our next episode, and thank you for watching. Catch you later.